There are thousands of trees in this picture. Can you see them? This is the historic mill yard of the Boot Cotton Mills in Lowell, Massachusetts, a canyon of brick that required hundreds of acres of trees just to build. Wood was used not only by itself, but to produce and deliver the bricks and iron needed to construct this urban landscape. The story of this city is tied to massive amounts of logging and long-term human environmental impact beyond what we can easily see at first glance. In the mid-1840s, there were 7 million square feet of factory space in Lowell. This was built using around 32.5 million board feet of lumber, primarily white and longleaf or yellow pine. That's about 36,000 trees, or 10 square miles of forest. Countless other trees were cut down to clear the landscape for the new industrial city. Where mills have been renovated or opened up, it is easy to spot where all this wood went. Beams and girders measuring 13 inches or more by 20 feet or longer were cut from old-growth trees found in New Hampshire and Maine. By the 1870s, deforestation already meant shortages of larger logs, and pairs of timbers had to be substituted for single solid ones. Boot Mill No. 6, constructed 1871 to 73, contains 132,700 board feet of beams or girders, 268,750 board feet of flooring, and about 10,000 board feet in doors and window frames. In total, one building, 411,000 board feet of timber. Wood was also a major industrial fuel. Lowell was built using millions of clay bricks. Prior to the 1880s, most brick in the United States was cast by hand, hardened in wood-fired kilns which burned for nearly a week. The bricks were then cemented together using mortar, a mixture of lime and sand. Lime is made by baking crushed limestone. An efficient lime kiln needed 15 cords of firewood for every 100 casks of limestone. Making mortar for Boot Mill No. 6 burned 256 cords of wood, or about 13 acres of forest. Wood was also burned as charcoal for smelting and casting iron. Each ton of iron required 80 to 90 bushels of charcoal. Lowell mill agents reported using about 600,000 bushels of charcoal for iron production in 1844. This consumed at least 1,000 acres of trees. Wood was used for transportation, too. At first, resources came from local or mid-range sources and moved mostly via waterways. But in the 1830s, a new technology came to Lowell: railroads. Between 1850 and 1861, New England's railroads grew from about 360 miles to nearly 1,700 miles of track. Half of this made up 3 lines that converged in Lowell. Railroads used vast amounts of metal and wood for fuel, trestles, track, and rolling stock. The ties alone used over 65 million board feet of oak and other dense species, about 8.5 square miles of forest, which had to be replaced every 6 to 8 years. As railroads connected New England with the rest of the country, extensive supply chains and distant markets also extended the environmental impact of industrial Lowell. This transportation network accelerated consumption and demand for raw supplies. People cleared hundreds of thousands of acres to grow the cotton the mills processed and for the farms that grew the food necessary to feed Lowell's workers. Lowell's environmental impact wasn't limited to building the mills. To continue running, urban centers required land across the country to be cleared and developed so the raw resources and supplies they needed could be gathered. In the mid-19th century, many Americans looked at the country's vast landscapes and thought its forests were a limitless source of timber. But this was not the case. The resulting deforestation altered or destroyed plant and animal ecologies, disrupted the water cycle, and changed regional climates. There were 65 major floods on New England rivers during the 1800s alone, magnified by the loss of soil and water-retaining trees. The loss of these trees also impacted water quality, as forests act as natural filtration for the watershed. When looking at a mill city like Lowell, it is easy to see an urban industrial landscape of brick. But looking closer reveals a forest hidden within the city. Each mill building represents hundreds, if not thousands, of acres of trees. Today, at a time when human activity has pushed our ecosystems and climate to the brink of crisis, it is more important than ever that we learn from the environmental legacy of the industrial era and continue to build and reshape our communities in a sustainable, green manner.